Really welcome to this webinar. Today we're going to talk about how to ace your medicine and surgery entrance exam. We have a very nice host who's Kashif. Kashif is a current student at Università Cattolica in Rome. And we also have Arianna, a colleague of mine. I'm going to introduce her a little bit later. But first of all, of course, thank you very much for being here and thank you for joining this webinar today. Couple of logistical things. We have a button at the bottom of the screen, and you can write your questions in the dedicated button. So do not write it on the chat. In the chat, if you want, you can share where you are from, because I think it's really nice to know where you guys are listening from. And but in particular for the questions, please use the questions button because we can also answer directly, and Ariana is actually going to help me with that as well. So we have quite a few people, so I can absolutely start the webinar itself. So hello, today we are going to go over Cattolica's Medicine and Surgery entrance exam, the student experience, so Kashif's experience preparing for the entrance exam, and also the experience that he had and he's having at the Medicine and Surgery school at Policlinico Gemelli Hospital in Rome. So quite a busy schedule today. I'm really happy that we can cover all of this. We're going to have a little interview with Kashif and a little bit of me talking, but it's just going to be, I hope, the least part, because I know you're more interested in, hearing from experiences of students who actually took the exam. So, well, before I forget, my name is Julia, actually, and I am here with Kashif. And as I said, Arianna is with me as a colleague and a backup to answer your questions. Okay. So, a couple of details that you might already know about the entrance exam, reminding you of the logistical things. I think it's always nice. So, the location will be online for everybody. It's going to be on the 18th of March. So, save the date. The feedback that we're going to give is going to be available from the 4th of April for EU applicants and from the 7th of April for non-EU applicants. I also remind you that we have a EU pool and non-EU pool. You have already applied, so you know which pool you belong to, but there's 40 places available for the EU pool and 70 places available for the non-EU pool. You know the tuition fee, but I'm going to repeat it as well. The tuition fee is 18,000 per year. Of course, you don't have to pay anything else to attend the entrance exam. You have already paid your application fee, so that's enough for now. If you are admitted, then we're going to, of course, have another webinar because we have so many with regards to medicine, and we're going to explain what happens next. But so what's the entrance exam? The entrance exam is composed of 65 multiple choice questions, which are going to be a mix between biology, chemistry, physics, maths. There's going to be some general knowledge questions, and then there's also going to be quite a few questions on logic, visual space reasoning, problem solving, so mathematical and logical questions. And then there's also going to be a small percentage of the questions are going to be on religious and ethical culture. We're going to go through what these questions would be in detail, because I know that this is like the most unknown part of the entrance exam. You're probably the one that you're less familiar with, so we're going to go over that as well. You have 65 minutes to complete the test. So we are also going to talk about how to handle this 65 minutes at best. But you have to complete the test in 65 minutes. Remember that it is not the IMAT, so it is not the one that you take in order to get admitted to public universities in Italy. It is not the TLC. It is not any other entrance exam. It's our own entrance exam. If you pass it, you are eligible to study at Cattolica solely. Okay. One thing that I want to address before, because I know that there are so many questions that you already have done to my colleagues while you met them, or I see because I also answer myself to some of your emails, some of your questions. So I wanted to, start from what I know the most frequently asked questions are. So the test scheduling. It's not yet defined 100%, but there is going to be a range, which is quite wide. Last year, if I'm not mistaken, it was a 10 hours range. So it was pretty long, the time span in which you could choose when to take your exam. Also because we are really aware of the fact that you guys do not all come from the same country. So it might be, of course, it might be 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. where you are from. As already said, time management, it will be your responsibility. So it will definitely be something that you have to control, and we cannot give you extra time to go over the questions. Also, some technical requirements. Because we have some technical requirements for this exam, because it is administered through a proctoring system, Selexi, which is our partner, will send an email with the instructions on how to complete the technical requirements check. It's going to be not before the 7th of March, so if you don't receive it tomorrow, it's absolutely fine. It's absolutely okay. It's in the timeline. If the the technical test is passed, the student will be able to select the preferred test time slot. So once you are done with the test and everything is okay, you will be asked to select your preferred time to take the test. The test is going to be sent from the address that I underlined above. And another question that we received quite often, so I wanted to address it before anything else, is that candidates may have just a blank sheet of paper and a pen for notes, calculations, questions related comments. So if you need anything, any reasoning while doing the exam, you have to do it on a piece of paper and a pen. So those are the most frequently asked questions that we get. If you want, you can take a screenshot of these actual slides so that you remember. We're also going to send some details later on. Our international admissions team in Rome is absolutely available to answer any of your questions. But if you want to take a screenshot just to remember what I said, absolutely do that. So, how do you prepare for the entrance exam? Well, at this point, I think all of you guys know that we have official material on our institutional website and an online simulator, which, of course, if you have submitted your application, you are given access to. And the students who have submitted their application earlier actually have had access to this online simulator for quite a long time. Of course, if you have submitted your application yesterday, or not yesterday because yesterday was past the deadline, but if you have submitted your application on the 21st, you probably haven't received the instructions on how to access the online simulation yet, but you will. So those are the two main things that we offer, but also we have a partner, always the same partner as I mentioned above in the slide before, which is the Lexi, who takes care of the preparation courses. So if you feel like you are behind on one particular class subject that you're not sure you're not confident in. So you can absolutely take advantage of the preparation courses that Selexi makes every year, specifically for preparing students for our entrance exam. Also, I want to underline that online simulator has 3,000 questions. And also, I think Kashif will absolutely say something about this one later on in our interview. But do remember that the structure of the exam and the types of questions that you see on the simulator are kind of the same, in the sense that it is not the same questions that you will find on the actual entrance exam, but the structure of the questions are going to be the same. So if you take those even multiple times, it's absolutely fine. It is a great way of exercising, okay? But I think the best thing to do when you have to take an exam like this is to ask someone who actually took it and passed it with success. So I am really happy to welcome Kashif, a current student. He's a fourth year actually, so he took a test quite some time ago, but I think the experience after the test is going to be really worth listening to as well. So Kashif, welcome. Thank you for being here. And, first things first, introduce yourself, please, and tell me where you're from. I mean, I absolutely know already, but our students want to know where you are from and what your academic background was before joining Cattolica.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much, Julia, for the lovely introduction. We may have met in the previous webinar where I spoke about the whole courses of medicine. And those who haven't met, I'm ready to help you guys and answer the questions which our lovely host, Julia, has. So, my name is Kashif. I'm a fourth year medical student, as you can see, and I am from India, but I was born and brought up in the UAE, the Emirates. And before joining Cattolica, I completed my high school studies, which comes under the CBSE curriculum. Uh, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I mute myself out of routine right now. Okay, thank you very much. So, Kashif, could you go back to when you decided to apply to Cattolica and
Mhm.
tell us how you prepared for the entrance exam? Did you have a study routine? Did you use the materials on our website? Did you use the simulator? How frequently? Please.
Okay, so the entrance exam, as Julia mentioned, it's apart from the English, the logic, the religious, and the general knowledge questions. A good amount of the exam is based on the science and math you learn in your years 11 and 12. And when I applied for the university admission exam, my high school finals were around the same time, like a month or two after the entrance exam, but due to COVID, it was cancelled, which was a different thing. But nonetheless, I was supposed to give the exam a month or two after the exam. So I was able to integrate my high school preparation with my entrance exam studies. One thing I'd strongly recommend is using the university's online simulator. That is like the most accurate way you could familiarize yourself with the types of questions you'll face. And the difficulty level, as Julia again mentioned, is if not 100%, it's like 90% or like 99% the same thing. So the university's online simulator is a must. Like if you haven't started doing the simulator, even if you do it right now, it's not too late at all. And apart from that, the university provides a 1,000 page detailed PDF document that is very, very useful for logical practice, the reasoning practice. It contains various types of questions that could appear on the exam, if not the same question, similar pattern, which makes it a great resource to define your problem solving skills.
Thank you very much, Kashif. Absolutely. I'm gonna stress it out again. Use the simulator because we take time to prepare it. So it's absolutely the best thing you can do to prepare. So the exam includes biology, chemistry, maths, physics, general knowledge, and religious questions. We have talked about this before, and many students find the last two sections that I mentioned, so the religious questions and the general knowledge questions, a little challenging. So, what was your strategy for tackling those?
Okay, so the part where the last two sections were challenging applied to me as well when I was once an applicant for this university. So what I learned from my experience was that the religious questions are usually based on like the fundamentals of the human values and a little bit, a slight little knowledge you need for Christianity and how it's, integrated in Rome. That could help. You don't need to like study everything about Christianity, but you can just like you have so many resources online, and even the simulator could provide you like a understanding of what questions could be asked and what sort of how they mix up the human values with the teachings of the Christianity. And for general knowledge, I relied mainly on the simulator, to be honest, and my knowledge, whatever I knew previously. But I could give you the suggestion because when I gave the exam, I did not have these tools like ChatGPT and different AI stuff. So right now, what I could suggest is that you could use these AI apps to your benefit. You can note down the questions you find difficult in the simulator, and you can ask the AI to create like a summarized notes of what you should study. And from those notes, you can ask the AI to predict like similar topics, and you could ask it for you to prepare them in advance. So in a way, you know what could be asked in the exam, but at the same time, it improves your syllabus of what you know. And this way, you have like a structured approach to cover any gaps in your knowledge.
This is actually great advice, and I hadn't thought of it. So, well done, actually.
Thank you.
I'm surprised. So, Kashif, in the final weeks before the exam, did you change your approach, or what were your top priorities in that period?
Okay, so in the final weeks, my focus completely shifted. I mean, it wasn't like a major shift, but I focused mainly on the sciences and maths and the logical reasoning because I feel like those sections are the places where you could score continuously and have the maximum potential of you getting an upper edge in the exam. My study routine as such did not change and was the same. And one thing again I would like to stress is that during the last few weeks of my exam, before my exam, I increased the frequency of my simulator practice. So let's say if I did like three simulators in one day, I do like six or seven because I know that whatever I have to learn will be based off the simulator. So I can get used to the environment before the exam starts.
Also, because we have to remember that 65 questions divided by 65 minutes is 1 minute per question. So you don't have to hesitate, I guess. And also that you get a detraction of minus 0.25 if you get the incorrect answer. So we have to remind that, and you have to take it into account while preparing for the entrance exam, I think. So, on the exam day, what was your mindset? So, did you have a strategy to manage all these 65 minutes effectively?
Okay, so my mindset, okay, so I have given multiple exams and for other universities in the Europe for like Czech and Hungary. That made me realize one thing that it's just an exam. And if you know you've put in the efforts, if you know your preparation, all I can advise is to just trust and have faith on it. Confidence is key, and stressing out last minute will probably make you forget things which you probably knew at the tip of your tongue. And because of stress, you end up forgetting. So trust your preparation and have faith on yourself. And for those who are giving this exam as their first exam, I recommend to recreate the test environment at your homes before you give the exam using the simulation. So you can probably ask like a friend or someone in your family to like proctor you strictly the way the university does, and you can time yourself under 65 minutes, which the simulator already does to you. So you get used to the environment with the whole proctoring going on and the strictness of the exam. So when you give the exam on the same day, it helps you reduce the nervousness.
Absolutely. That's really good advice. Thank you, Kashif. And Can you describe how you felt in 3 words in the day of the exam?
Okay, so focused because it's the exam which I wanted to give for the university, prepared, and a little bit of excitement.
Okay. I love that you didn't say nervous because being nervous doesn't really help anything.
Mhm.
Okay. I have a couple questions on after the exam, actually. So, what do you remember about the moment you got your results, and how did you feel when you received the offer to join Cattolica?
Okay, so I was like relieved and happy. My family members were happy, especially my mother and my brother. They were excited with me as well when I saw the results, and that admission letter was something huge for me because I know for a fact that I want to study in Italy. I said, I'd applied to other countries in Europe, but despite that, I chose to give the exam. And yeah, so getting an acceptance from Cattolica was like I'm in the stage one of many in becoming a physician.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, you've now been in the program for 4 years. So many students worry about ranking high in the entrance exam. No, how
Mhm.
important do you feel your exam score was in the long run? So,
Okay. So the exam, of course, is important for admission because you have like a ranking system. So the better you do, the higher rank you have, and the more chances of you getting into the university course. But in the long run, it's not just the exam which matters because you need to be dedicated and you have to have the ability to adapt to various environments because in medical school whatever mindset you had in your first year changes by the end of like 2 or 3 years because you go through a lot of stuff. Because for me, once I realized that I'm doing this course, I accepted the fact that medicine is a continuous learning journey, and the real challenge is keeping up everything with after what happens once you get in. So aim high for the exam, but also know that it's the first step. What counts is that how you grow during the course.
and that cannot be scored, unfortunately, but there should be. I think there should be a score on how well you adapt, just for yourself to see, because it's so nice to, look back and see how much you've grown, but we don't measure it. Unfortunately, there's no way to measure growth, personal growth, professional growth, student life, they all mix up. So that's beautiful advice from you, Kashif. Thank you very much. So once we are done talking about the exam itself, I think I'm gonna give you a minute, Kashif, because you have answered to so many questions already, and remind our students of what they are taking the exam for, okay? So, first of all, do you know why you should study medicine in Cattolica? Because I think you guys know already, but let me remind you that the reason why you should choose Università Cattolica to study in medicine, and especially the reason to choose Università Cattolica among all of the universities that we have in Italy is, well, there are plenty actually. So I'm gonna list a few. First of all, we are in the top 200 ranked universities according to the QS University rankings worldwide. So it's a pretty impressive achievement. A lot of our professors are doing meaningful research, and we're going to talk about it later. But it's huge. So it's a good university to study at because of the academic excellence that we provide students with. Also, it's a private university, as you know. That means we have more freedom on when or where to do the exam. We also usually, compared to other universities in Italy, we make you take the exam earlier. So the exam results are out earlier than others. The exam, as I said, is not IMED, so it is not one for every university that you could potentially apply to, but it is just for us. So that gives you more focus, I think. Also, the fact that we are private also really helps the student to faculty ratio, because in public universities, usually there's a lot of students and just one professor, but there's only 110 students in class each year. And for this particular program, a really high retention rate. So once you guys apply for our university, actually, and you decide to study, you pass the test and you decide to study with us, you tend to stay with us until the end, which I think is amazing in terms of the student experience. You know, you choose your friends and you stay friends for forever, basically, because medicine is a way of life. Also, I think compared to other universities, also in Europe, we have a better service to international students. We offer visa support and we also offer study abroad opportunities. I like to remind every time I talk about the medicine and surgery program taught in Rome, I like to remind that there is also a double degree program with Thomas Jefferson University in the US. So and also that you can go on exchange in many other universities as well. So it's absolutely, I think, one of the main reasons why you should study in Cattolica, because of all the partnerships that we have and all the possibilities that we give students to go abroad. Also, last but not least, you see behind me is Policlinico Gemelli. You may not really know of its importance, but let me tell you, this university and hospital that you see right in the back of the screen is one of the most important university hospitals in the world. The Pope right now is being cured in this university's hospital. So, I mean, it means that the Pope trusts us, and they've always trust us actually, but also that the medical equipe, the professors, the environment is really something, you know, really cool about this particular building, this particular hospital, and you know, um, the fact that you study in a hospital uh, gives you a really early access to patients. So there's 100% of a medical atmosphere. And Kashif is going to talk about this later because he just started his clinicals. So we're going to ask him a little bit more about what he's doing and how he feels about it. But I think even if you haven't started clinicals yet, I mean, you're studying in a hospital. So what's better to prepare to become a doctor? As I said already, we have a lot of the faculty at Policlinico Gemelli Università Cattolica listed among the top Italian scientists. It's 37%, 37 faculty members, and two of them, 2% of them are actually in the um, top ranked scientists list, which I believe Stanford writes this list every year. So they are in the top 2%. We are absolutely amazed at that. As I already said, we have a study abroad opportunity, many study abroad opportunities, but the most interesting, I think, would be the double degree with with TGU, Thomas Jefferson University in Philadelphia. But most importantly, Università Cattolica Policlinico Gemelli University Hospital is the best hospital in Italy, and he's been ranked in the top 35%, top 35 worldwide, actually, based on the World's Best Hospital 2024 ranking by Newsweek. So this means it's a really great university to to have an experience as a medical student, because these doctors know how to do their job, and they know how to train you into being a doctor that does his job really well. Okay. So I'm gonna go back to Kashif, I think, because I have some other questions that I would like to ask him regarding the student experience, actually. Because I mean, the test is important, and we know, but it is also important to know what is after the test. So also to motivate you, right? Because you have to remember what you're studying for and what you're trying so hard to achieve. Okay, so now that you're in year 4, Kashif, how has your academic journey evolved? What are some key differences between the early years and now?
Okay, so my academic journey evolved in the sense is that I basically have an entire different approach and in terms of studying and how it has changed over these 4 years. So back in school, we had like a simple objective. That's the textbook, open it, mug everything up, and just spit it out in the exam. That's how it worked in my time. But in medicine, that will, if you can do it. But in my opinion, I diversified myself into various different ways of studying because the content we cover is huge, and like one subject itself is probably equal to like two of the textbooks you do in school. So that's why I adapted myself into using different study techniques like flashcards or many YouTube videos or like spaced repetition or using methods like the Pomodoro where you study in blocks of 45 minutes and you take like a 15-minute break and then you continue doing it again. So I keep experimenting with different methods, so I know there's some sort of a flexibility inside me which I'm able to do it once I enter medical school. And yeah, I've been doing that, and that's how I've been giving my exams and doing well in them.
Thank you very much. So you have shifted your perspective quite a while, and I understand it really takes some time to adapt to the Italian method as well. I mean, we're in a really international university as a whole, but we're still in Italy, so it's kind of different from many other countries where you could study. Thank you very much, Kashif. And how has the experience of clinical rotation going? How is that? Is that exciting? I don't know what happens in clinical rotations because I haven't studied medicine.
Okay, so the experience is amazing because in my semester right now, we've covered three departments, actually more than three, but the main ones being gastrology, the endocrinology, and then we have internal medicine, and which is like automatically a different branch of medicine, and you have like various topics coming under that, and you have even stuff like pathology if you want to see something with the molecular diagnostics of medicine. These are only like a few I could name right now. And in my upcoming semester, I have gynecology and pediatrics coming up. So I'll have to visit the hospital to cover the rotations for that. So, in my opinion, these rotations give you like real life exposures to situations and topics which cannot be exactly defined in a textbook because you interact with patients, you learn their histories of how they ended up being in the hospital, and for example, if they have any family history involved, and seeing that, you see how doctors are making decisions in real life, and you get to shadow the residents and you understand how different departments function. And in my opinion, some topics which you pick up in the hospital stick with you forever than what you probably studied in your notes. Because in my exams, in terms of gastro, there was like two or three diseases which I learned because the doctor in Jamari told me that, and not in the textbooks. Because if it was in the books, I'd probably have forgotten it.
That is absolutely true. And I cannot imagine how many things there are in a hospital room that you can learn and you probably won't find in textbooks or in your notes. So, absolutely amazing to hear that you're enjoying it, anyways. Medicine is a demanding degree, and we all know that. And how have you managed to balance studying with student life over these 3, 4 years that you have taken medicine?
Okay, so over time you learn how to adjust. So when university started initially, I made an effort to review the content, if not study it for like 3 or 4 hours, just to sit down and review the content, give it a quick skim, so I'm not lagging behind in the future. But at the same time, I don't only focus myself on, studying and seeing the content and catching up. I also prioritize being active myself, like I go to the gym or I hang out with my friends or just sleep on days where I couldn't because of the lectures being hectic. Since the schedules we have for our university is not the same, they are very flexible. For example, you'll have like a lecture which begins at 8 in the morning, like half past 8, and by half past 11, you're done. And you'll have some days where you have lectures from half past 8 till like half past 5. So that's like your half day entirely gone. So obviously, you won't be able to study in that time after you come back. So what I do is I just like go crash to bed and sleep. But on days where I know I'm not really doing anything apart from the whole gym, friends, and stuff, I decide to sit down and try to revise and or just know what I studied in the past few days or weeks.
Thank you very much again. And so another question is about, learning Italian, because there's a lot of students who are interested in this particular topic. So, how have you managed learning Italian? How was your experience adjusting to the language?
Okay, so before joining the university, I practiced the Italian course through Duolingo just to get a feel for the language because obviously I didn't know anything about the language before I came to Italy. And one thing I can say is that learning it isn't as hard as it seems since we know English. Many words are similar, and if we know English, it's going to be like a head start for us to learn the language. Once you're in Italy, daily interactions with locals, even at like a cafe or supermarket, teach you words and phrases that you won't probably find in Duolingo, at least in my opinion. For clinicals, Cattolica also provides a course in year three that helps with patient communication and medical terminologies, which really helps. And in the first year, you have like the course of Italian in the first semester, which helps you go through the basic parts of the grammar or how to use the masculine and feminine terms in different ways. So that was also a huge of head start. But in the third year, again, I'm saying you learn the different terminologies specifically in Italian.
Thank you very much. What's your favorite Italian word right now, just for fun?
Okay, so I had my exam sessions right now actually. In like I finished my last exam around a week or weeks ago, and one word I always heard from my Italian classmates was in bocca al lupo, which means good luck, and it has a very different meaning literally because it means in the mouth of the wolf, and that's something very fun in my opinion.
It is very fun, and it's really
Mhm.
sweet once you understand where it comes from, actually. But that's a different story, and I'm not gonna even
Mhm.
tell because I see we have like
Okay.
70 questions already. So it's a lot. So just one last question that I want you to answer to is, what's your key piece of advice for students who are taking the exam?
Okay, so my advice, obviously, before I start, if you're feeling anxious, it's completely normal. That was also me, but don't let the stress or the anxiety overpower your preparation because the key element of this exam is to trust what you know and just be confident in yourself. Use the simulator as much as you can, like you can abuse it to the maximum because it gives you, like she said, 3,000 questions is not a joke, and once you master those questions, you know what to expect in the exam. Focus on the English comprehension, the passage you get to answer the questions, your syllabus from year 11 and 12, and for logical reasoning, you have those 1,000 pages waiting for you to be solved. As the sciences and logical reasoning have like the highest potential scoring ways. And yeah, all the best in the exams, and I hope you guys make it to the university.
Yeah, some of us, some of them will make it for sure. So, thank you very much, Kashif. Do not go away because we have some questions for you. Stay until the end. And I'm going to ask Ariana to browse and filter some of the questions. I kept it so short because I've seen so many questions coming. So I wanted to be able to answer to as many of them as possible. I'm not gonna be able to answer to all of them, but we're gonna try.
Grazie, Julia. Yes, really a lot of questions. I was trying actually to reply to all those questions while you guys were talking. One thing we should say, highlight and underline that you will have 65 minutes to complete the test because many students are asking, so only 65 minutes. And yes, there is a minimum score required to pass the test, which is 20 questions out of 65. Many students, they were asking, is this enough to get admitted into Università Cattolica? The answer is no, because there's also a ranking. As Julia said, we do accept 110 students every year, 70 from the non-EU pool, 40 for the EU pool. It means that you have to perform very well, not just passing the test. That will not be enough, okay? I just wanted to stress this at first because many questions were about this topic. Kashif, this one is for you. How were you able to be quick with answering the long passage questions without slowing down and reading the whole passage? And related to these questions about the test, do you advise starting with logical questions or with scientific ones?
Okay, so for the English passages, what I do was I skim the paragraph quickly, like just see the main points that it's covering. I read the question it asks or the two or three questions it asks further below. I see the keywords in the question and I go back to the paragraph and just see where that part is exactly covered. So in that way, you know what the paragraph is covering, and at the same time, you eventually read the passage as you are also seeing in the question's perspective. So that helps a lot in making sure you don't make any mistakes, because there are scenarios where you have the two options to be completely similar, but like one thing is changed. So with that mindset, you know exactly what to eliminate. And in terms of the sequence of questions, I say to start as it is, because if you jump from one thing to another, you might miss out on solving a question which you probably thought you'll do it later. Or let's say if you don't have time, so you miss out on the question either way. So follow the sequence as it is, because in my opinion, the first questions, the way it presents the questions, are supposed to be the lengthiest, because when I remember sciences, the theology and the GK, the general knowledge part, was towards the end, but at the same time, they were the shorter, they took less time to be solved.
Thank you. And Julia, this one is for you. Is there any other source other than the simulator and the preparatory courses to prepare for the exam? Because apparently many students and applicants didn't see that section on our university website with materials that they can download. Do you want to cover this one?
Yeah, absolutely. As you just said, Arianna, there is a list of materials that you can find directly on the university website. So there is a section which is dedicated to the entrance exam itself on our international.unicat.it website, the one where you applied at. It is the same exact website. You just have to scroll through, and you will also find a section of it where you will be able to find a list of useful materials to prepare. If it's not enough, of course, there's preparatory courses. But yeah, this section entrance exam has some material in it already.
Kashif, this one is for you. If you're unsure about a question in the real exam, should you answer it or skip it?
Okay, this is a tough one, because what I do is, if I know for a fact I'm not sure of the question, I skip it because it has a negative marking. So if it's a question where you are like 80% sure, I usually go for the answer and see what happens. But if I know for a fact it's going to be wrong, I just leave the question and hope that some other question in the exam is probably easy and covers up the thing I didn't do in the last question.
Thank you, Kashif. I'm interested in this one. You talked about studying Italian. A student was asking, how confident are you in your Italian language level at this point after these few years you spent in Italy at Cattolica?
Okay, so I could say that obviously the fluency is still coming, but I can understand the conversations in the hospitals because I pick up certain keywords and I base it around what the situation is. So I can tell what they're trying to say, and because there are cases where the doctors that explain the cases in Italian to each other, and from there I pick up points and I note it down, and then I go forward when the thing is done to ask the professor or the doctor that what if this was actually true or not. And for basic conversations, for example, navigating through the city center, or just asking for, like, example, going to a cafe or asking for like a specific grocery item, for sure it's something you will learn eventually, because you cannot escape the ways you pick up Italian from the streets. So I would say that what I was back in first year compared to now is definitely an improvement.
Ooh la la. Julia, a couple of questions for you. Maybe you want to repeat and stress a little bit about this. Is there a specific time the exam will take place? Is question number one. Question number two is there a specific deadline for submitting a language certificate for registration? One thing, you don't need that for the entrance exam, and Julia will tell you when we would need your English entrance certificate, sorry, English language certificate to be sent us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ari. I never remember the exact date, but it is July, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if it's the 25th or the
I will tap
31st.
that here, no problem.
Okay, thank you very much. But it is July 100%. I know that for sure. So you don't need to have your English test now. You have to submit it later on. But also, the other question that you were asking, Ari, was about mine. I
The
forgot
time slot
the
for
time
the
slots.
exams.
Yeah. Okay. So the time slots are not set in the sense that you have a range of time. Let's say, again, it is not sure 100% and it is not being set yet, but you will have from say 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and you can choose 1 hour of, well, of course, you have to choose it in between this range to complete the exam. So it is not that everyone connects at the same time. You can choose your time because we know that you guys are on all on different in different countries and you have different time zones. So absolutely. Um, that's how it works. So if you there's I actually have a student I had the student ask me about this because he had like a high school diploma exam that he had to take in the same exact date. I mean, it's unlucky, but you know, it happens because you guys are from all over the place. So um, it's typical that we have someone who has like an important deadline, an important exam in the same date. But you can choose the 65 minutes that you dedicate among a range that we give you.
Thank you. Now, a couple of questions for Kashif. This is not about the entrance exam, but everyone is asking and everyone always asks. So, does the medical school do cadaver dissections?
Okay, so this thing is okay, so this is a bit different from what you expect, but since Vatican City is in Rome, due to the Christianity laws, the cadaver availability is not there in this university, but instead they have like mannequins and simulated models in the hospital itself. For example, in second year, they had like an entire simulation of the emergency department on a dummy, but that dummy would respond to whatever you did, or if you didn't time it right, the heart rate of the dummy would start going down. So you do not have practical experience as such with the cadaver, but the simulation is a way you could start off to be familiar with things, and you will have lectures on first aid and practicals on how to perform the CPR on a patient lying on the floor. And you also have a simulation of how you withdraw blood from a patient. And the mannequin is very, as I wouldn't say 100%, but it does the job of you learning the skill for you to withdraw blood.
Thank you, Kashif. Everyone really is always asking at every step of the process. And about this for you, Kashif, as well, if I'm accepted into medicine, what's the minimum grade to pass first year and get into the second year? Then we'll go back to the entrance exam, but the students need to understand how you process in Italy when it comes to exams that you have to pass, how many times you can pass them.
Okay, so the entrance exam, you do not give it again for, let's say, if you do not clear first year, because in Italy, you can, in the Italian medical schools, you can give the exams as many times as you want. There is not as such a fail or you get removed from the university. You can literally, I know people that have exams from the first or second year, but are also attending the lectures and rotations of my year, fourth year itself, and at the same time they're preparing to complete their backlogs. So as such, there is no way of failing or not being able to give exams. One thing I like to make myself clear is that, for example, if you're in second year and you have exams of the first year, even though there are unlimited attempts you can give, you cannot give an exam of second year if you haven't passed the exams of first year. So it's like a level you complete. So you complete first year exams, and then you give second year exams, and then it goes on and on, even for each semester.
Okay, thank you about this. I would like to clarify one point. As we were saying earlier, you have time to provide us with the English language certificate. So starting from July, you don't need that for the entrance exam. And the few students attend this, they were asking, how do I get access to the online simulator? I believe Julia covered this already, but as soon as you submit your application, which had to be done earlier because applications are now closed, you immediately receive a link that will redirect you to the online simulator, which contains these thousands, 3,000 questions taken from past exam. So if you have submitted your application and you did not receive the link for the online simulator, you send us an email at international.inquiry@unicat.it and we will look into that. Okay. And again, about the English language certificate, we were saying there's no need to provide us with it before the exam. You have time if you're uncertain because maybe you did study in English. English was the medium of instruction for you in high school. That's going to be okay. Someone is asking, do you accept all kinds of diploma like IB diploma, international baccalaureate, British diploma, Indian diplomas? Yes, we do accept international and national high school diploma. Kashif himself, he was telling me that you have an Indian national high school diploma, right? And you did apply for the university having your own national diploma. Some students, they were asking Kashif, do you think, and did you feel actually like the preparation and the scientific subjects you got in high school was good enough, strong enough to face the entrance exam, but also the classes you're actually taking and you did take in the first years at Cattolica?
Okay, so in terms of my high school preparations, in my experience, the Indian curriculum I did was more than enough for the entrance exam. And the accurate way of staging these sciences is based on A and AS levels, because that's where they take their content and the type of questions from, at least what I know. But for me, it was beyond what my curriculum had things beyond the entrance exam scope. So for me, it wasn't an issue. And also in first year, they covered physics and chemistry for like the entire semester, because I know friends who had given first year exams in basics, but at the same time, they did not finish physics and chemistry during high school times. So that is like a way why they repeat physics and chemistry. Obviously, for me also, there were some new topics I could study from, but like 80 to 90% of it was covered in my high school studies, in my curriculum at least.
Thank you, Kashif. Someone is asking about the minus point if you get the wrong answer during the entrance exam. So just to summarize, minimum score required to pass the exam, we said already is 20 out of 65, right? It's 1 point for each correct answer. It's minus 0.25 for each wrong answer, and it's no point for no answer. Okay, keep this in mind. Julia, a question for you, but for you, Kashif, as well, because you experienced it firsthand. When do the students get to know about our study abroad opportunities, meaning the double degree with Thomas Jefferson, exchange opportunity, clinical experiences abroad? When do you get to meet with the outbound office of Cattolica? And when should you start thinking about when is the right time to go abroad, according to your experience?
Okay, so the double degree program with the Jefferson University was available to us during the first year itself. Couple of friends of mine have are now in the US because they had applied for the program in the first years. And you have like a open day in the Rome campus itself, where many different institutions come in the university and they tell you about their stuff. So you can go have a chat with them and they will guide you as to what to do. In my opinion, the best time to do the electives, clinical electives, is during the fifth or sixth years, because even in fourth years you've just started the rotations in the hospital. So once you get done with your university hospital, or you have some sort of an experience of how things work, then I would advise you to take up an elective abroad and continue doing your experiences. Because for me, I'm planning to do an internship or an observership in India itself. Maybe if things go good in the US with the Jefferson electives thing. But for now, I'm focusing on the experiences I gain in the Jebeli Hospital itself.
Which I'm sure is a great experience because we love the
Right.
environment and we know the program is a really strong one. Julia, this one is for you. How do our attendees get access to the recording of this webinar?
Yes, this is for me as well. Well, the same way you received the invitation for this webinar, actually. So if you received the invitation for for this particular webinar, you will also receive a follow-up email where we will show you the link to access the recording of the webinar. So absolutely, you will have the access to that. We will also post it on our website as well. So if you want to share it with people who might be interested in our program. Right now, as Ariana rightly said, applications are closed, but maybe you are from, I don't know, you have to think about university because you are in like fourth year, third year of high school, and you still have to complete 1 to 2 years of high school, but you are starting to get informed, which I mean, I have a very high opinion of you guys when you start when you start really early. I think it is the best thing to do to start really early. So you can absolutely share it with anyone who you think might be interested in hearing from it.
And Julia, this one is for you as well. Many questions related to the topic. Is it just important to pass with a good grade, with a good score, the entrance exam, or does Cattolica also take into consideration high school grades, the CV, the personal statement, and the letter of reference? This was, asked in many different ways.
Yeah, I'd say we do have a sort of screening at the beginning, but the most important thing is the exam. That's why we don't even ask for the certificate of English in medicine, actually. In the medicine and surgery program, it is the only undergraduate program where we don't ask the English certificate straight away before even considering your application, because if you are good enough, if you are a good enough student to pass an entrance exam on these specific subjects entirely taught in English, we are pretty confident that you can provide an English certificate soon enough. But yeah, most of the evaluation is going to be the entrance exam. Their ranking is going to be based solely on the entrance exam. So.
Thank you. A couple of words about accommodations. How does it, what happens, after the students actually decide to study at Cattolica in case they decide to pay a deposit? Sorry, just let me add on this. Tuition fees wise, it's 18,000 euros per year. 4,000 euros, as Julia said, is the deposit to confirm your seat, to confirm your place if you decide to study at Cattolica, and then it's divided into installments. A lot of students, they were asking, how much is it? Is it divided into installment? What does it happen with accommodation? Do we have any suggestions for the students?
Yes, we do. We actually have a body which is inside of Cattolica, which is called Educat, and I think maybe also Kashif can tell us about it. I don't remember if you are studying in an Educat residence or not, but we do have some housing options with Educat, which is our entity that takes care of like student life and student services after you enter Cattolica. So there are some accommodation, but you can also, if because nobody is born equal, you can also decide to get a private accommodation in Rome as well. So I don't know if Kashif wants to add on this with the experience of an ONU student, which I think is more, even more difficult, I would say, because you have to move like thousands kilometers away from home, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I have to try and find a room, etc. How did you manage that?
Okay, so I reside in the Educat dorms currently, and I've been doing that since the past 4 years. So when I had applied for the accommodations, I had one goal is to apply the one in the university as everyone dreams of doing. I sat for the interview for the campus placement in the dorm placement. I did not get the room, unfortunately. But at the same time, I got an accommodation which I'm very happy with currently because it has its own single room, its own bathroom, and it has a kitchen which is not too crowded. And at the same time, it's not too small. It's like a perfect cozy space for you to cook things. And I met some people from UAE itself who had applied to Cattolica, and I got to know them more and more as to how they are and stuff in the dorms itself. So I have acquaintances who I can, bond with or study with actually, because in if you live somewhere in private, you probably will not have company unless you decide to rent a house together. So if you do it in the dorms, you already get like a group of friends who you could interact with and just do a couple of things together, because in the dorms I watch sports as well. So I already know how to pass time when I'm not doing anything productive. So I'd suggest you could try doing educat as your main preference for finding a dorm. Doesn't matter which one, but the first 2 years for sure you can live in the dorms. Otherwise, you have websites in you can search on Google. You get many websites. You can even check out Facebook or anything. It's like amount of sources available for you to find accommodation apart from Educat.
Thank you, Kashif. Students are asking how many applications, so how many students will face the entrance exam this year for the non-EU pool and the EU pool. It's early to tell in the sense that we just closed the application. We are still in the evaluation process for many of them. But when the official invitation to the entrance exam will be shared around March the 10th, the 12th, you will know how many students will be there, and also when the rankings, yes, the results will be shared, and it's about 1 week, 10 days after the exam, you will know how many students did actually sit for the exam. Why is it early? Because as Julia was saying, we do not really look into predicted grades. We don't need the English language certificate when it's time to evaluate the application, but we need to check the eligibility of your application into the entrance exam. So we're still processing those applications. Let me see. If a student was asking about the transfer procedures, Julia, is it related to transferring to medicine and surgery? Do we have a separate competition call to transfer into the second or third year? When does it happen? How does it happen?
Yeah. First, let me elaborate on what you just said regarding eligibility, because I think I overlooked at it because I was just assuming most of our students following us today were already applying to our university, so they knew. But in order to be eligible to get into any Italian university, you have to have at least 12 years of high school. Okay, and you, of course, you have to pass the final exam if you have any, the country final exam if you have any. So this is another thing that we will check later on. But also you have to complete at least 2 years in the same education system. So that's the screening that our colleagues at the International Admissions Office do in terms of being deciding whether you are eligible or not. I think it has to be underlined, and that's why it doesn't take ages because it's pretty fast. But still, we have received, I think, more than 1,000 applications, Ari, if I'm not mistaken. So it's so much, so many, way more than that. Oh gosh.
All included, I think it's way more than that. No EU and EU pool, because
Uh,
we
Well, I feel sorry for our colleagues in Rome. Anyways, what was the second question that you said? You said about.
about the transfer procedures,
Okay,
because there
yes,
might be students here
yes.
already enrolled in a medical school in their own country and interested in a transfer option.
Okay, yes, absolutely. So no, the transfer option is another competition call actually, which usually starts in May. So you will have more information in spring. In a couple of months, you will have some more information about that. Please note that in order to be eligible to transfer to our university from another university, your whole degree must have been taught in English. So it has to be a medicine and surgery English taught degree for you to consider the idea of transferring. And then that we only accept transfers from second year and third year. So it is not possible to transfer in your fourth year, fifth year, or sixth year. That's the only thing that I would.
Thank you, Julie. And it's not even, to be 100% honest and straightforward, is not even guaranteed that we open seats for the second and third year. The retention rate is really high. So you should keep this in mind. Maybe, Julie, the last question, which is just asking you to repeat one small detail. Let's assume that the students here, the attendees, they did submit an application. Again, what they should expect now. What's the next step? So they are ready.
Absolutely. So our colleagues at the Rome office will evaluate your application. So if you haven't received an application status yet, so you haven't received any news on the status of your application yet, do not worry, because as I already said, we have received more than 1,000 applications, and our colleagues in Rome are doing everything in their power to evaluate as fast as they can. But there are some applications which have been sitting there for, I think, 2 to 3 weeks already. So if you just applied yesterday, you can't expect, unfortunately, you can't expect any feedback today or tomorrow. It will take some time, but if I am not mistaken, they will send out all the eligibility results before the 10th of March.
Yeah, that's
Uh, around the 10th of March. So you should be receiving a feedback shortly, I would say, because you might think it's a long, a really long process, but our undergraduate degrees, our other undergraduate degrees, it takes them 4 to 6 weeks to get a feedback. So you're lucky, you're the lucky ones in this case. So once you receive the feedback and of course, if the feedback is positive, it means you're eligible to take the entrance exam. Then you're going to have more emails coming from you, from our international admissions office, and they are going to invite you to the exam. They're going to explain you the procedure. They're going to explain what comes next. So you're not going to be abandoned. Absolutely, it's something that we try not to do with our students. And then, of course, you're going to have to sit the entrance exam on the day on the exam, but that's your responsibility.
Thank you, Julie. I could keep on asking questions to both you and Kashif. I'm telling to both of you. So you just tell me to stop if it's time we stop.
No, yeah, we have to stop it. I think we could be going on for hours, I know, but Kashif needs to study. Oh no, he's on break right now, but but he needs to enjoy his break, and we need to keep working on other projects as well. So just one thing that I want to remind our students of: if you have any questions, anything that is not clear, anything that we have not answered in this webinar particularly, please contact these 2 emails regarding if you have applied or if you have not applied. There's 2 different emails because we're 2 different offices. If you have already applied, use the international.admissions, how is that called? Bracket? No, it's not bracket. Well, Rome anyway. And then it's hyphen. Yeah, I never remember that. It's international.inquiry@unicat.it if you have not applied yet. So if you wish to apply for the next academic year, 2026-2027, because applications are closed already. We have a website and it's full of information, so please go visit it if you have any questions. And then we also have, of course, an Instagram account and a Facebook account. That's all I wanted to say. And also, thank you very much for being here, for being so participative. I don't know if this word exists in English. Thank you, Kashif, for being here and for answering all these questions. And we really appreciate that of you. And well, good luck for the entrance exam, guys. If you are planning on taking it, I wish you a real good luck. In bocca al lupo, as Kashif said.
In bocca al lupo,
Right.
everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Kashif. Thank you, Julia. Bye bye to
Bye bye.
Thank you
everyone.
so much, everyone. Bye bye.